If you're not completed, I will politely say you're done. Okay, so we welcome Ralph Christensen.
Okay. Dentist, very attentive, and I want to thank you all for being here and your passion on this important topic. As a dentist, I want to sensitize you to our profession that deals pretty much with perioperative pain, a little bit of chronic illness that many of us do. But perioperative pain, and we deal, for instance, well, I'm in Seattle, we deal, as everybody, in a lot of chronic pain patients. We prescribe in that landscape. I teach at the university, and I teach rational prescribing. And so, I'm concerned on some of these. I think we handle it well. We prescribe anxiolytics surrounding surgeries. So, diazepam or triazolam. And we do that in the landscape of chronic pain. So please allow us to do that. Perhaps an exemption, as well as consideration of sedation in outpatient centers. I am concerned because we do prescribe, we take care of our patients and manage pain in folks that demonstrate substance abuse disorder. Here in Seattle, every day I see substance abuse or heroin addicts. It's actually relatively prevalent. Interesting population that's diverse. And I implore you not to prohibit prescribing. Sometimes I'll use an opiate. Sometimes in advanced liver disease that has an attendant advanced renal disease. My backbone of an NSAID and an acetaminophen can have contraindications. And I will use an opiate, but judiciously. And I want to maintain that. I would rather a patient have their pain managed under my care and whomever, that with a dose that we know, as opposed to getting ill care. I cannot thank you enough for being here. It's going to take all of us, and it's good to participate. Thank you.
Okay, Lori is next, and then we will hear from, on deck is John Osmond.
My name is Lori Grassi, representing the Washington State Chiropractic Association as their executive director and lobbyist. And also, I have an 81-year-old mother that I spent 10 months getting off of 7 years of narcotics. So your task is quite challenging. I just want to point out, first of all, my membership has a hard time coming to these meetings, and it's very clinical. So they don't work in drugs, but we just want to call out that we would appreciate a stronger reference to drugless options and the non-pharmacological choice for pain management, especially with musculoskeletal conditions that we can make a huge difference on. I also have a question on behalf of our board in section 3, the definition of clinically meaningful improvement in function that references at least 30% as compared to the start of treatment or in response to a dose change. I understand that it's referencing a dose change, but we would like a little more understanding around the 30% and how you came to that and how that applies to the overall treatment of a covered condition, especially in our case where it might not be related to a drug at all. Thank you.
All right, John, and on deck we have Joanne. Want to see them? John? John here? John is a maybe, so I think he's not here. And then we have Joanne Cato is a maybe? Okay, we have Daniel? Daniel.
I will defer my time.
Okay. Malia Carr? Malia Carr, sorry. And on deck is Cindy.
Hi, Medea Carr, family nurse practitioner. I own Willow Fibromyalgia and Hypermobility Clinic in West Seattle. We see predominantly chronic pain patients, and we use a number of modalities to help take care of them, including opioids. I just wanted to comment on a few of the specific items that we addressed today. In the informed consent section, there was discussion around for acute 15, whether there would be a shorter version, whether there should be an informed consent versus a document of patient education, etc. So my feedback would be that yes, in acute pain situations, there does need to be at least some addressing of these issues, keeping your medication safe, making sure that children don't get into them, all of that. So that would be a recommendation that I would agree with, making sure that we do include something for acute. And then moving to section 8 for perioperative pain. I actually didn't have much to say about that, except that I agree with this fellow who suggested that if chronic pain patient is getting surgery, surgeon can consult with the outpatient prescriber, not just to develop a plan for transitioning care, but also to develop a plan for actually managing that immediate post-op pain. Because I can't tell you how many times I've had patients who, again, they were underprescribed their post-op pain, miserable, into the emergency room, and all it would have taken was just a simple consult with me. We could have worked out a better plan for managing their post-op pain. And I really love the idea of including a timeline for recovery. How long do I have? Okay, so really fast. So yes, I think the idea of planning for tapering is critical. Back in the old days when we were prescribed medication for acute injuries or post-op, so many people got into trouble because nobody addressed the fact that, you know what, when you're done with this, you might have withdrawal symptoms. We might need to taper, we might need to transition you to something so that you don't have withdrawals. And these are people who ended up looking for medication elsewhere. And then the last thing I wanted to say was in terms of naloxone, I would be more broad with recommendations for naloxone. I wouldn't even include a dosage. I would just say practitioner should consider issuing a prescription for naloxone for inpatients who do benefit from it. The more, the better.
Thank you. Okay, we have Cindy, and on deck we have Rose.
The comments will be specifically addressing chronic pain and kind of speaking about some of the comments about there being a separate section that deals with chronic pain. Dear opioid task force members, thank you for being here today. The results of the opioid crackdown have been devastating for our intractable pain community. None of us know what will happen the next time you walk into our provider's office, our pharmacy, or receive a letter from our insurance company. People with severe intractable pain are living in agony and dying to escape it. We are losing access to simple medicine that helps us function and enjoy life. I've made studies and articles on this topic to be circulated later to the task force and experts. Why would states continue to implement and underscore policies that are hurting disabled people in our country and in our state? I have a few options for you to consider today to make your task a little easier and to avoid a further health crisis for people who are already suffering. After considering the recommended guidelines for chronic pain, I give you a gift. The Federation of State Medical Boards guidelines for chronic use of opioid analgesics adopted by the board in April 2017. This makes this guideline more up to date, and as a chronic pain patient, I approve of it. You can find this guideline on your own DOH webpage, and its author includes one, Jim Anderson from Seattle. I will also leave a copy of that with a copy of link to circulate among the task force members. It's clean, well thought out, and ready to go, uncomplicated. However, it does not imply or suggest one-size-fits-all dosage limits. This was from my second comment thing. So thank you so much last time for considering a legacy patient exemption in some capacity for chronic pain patients. With regarding last meeting's minutes, I can see that you're definitely trying to find a way to protect access for those who are suffering from intractable pain. I would like to offer a more inclusive exemption. Include appropriate chronic pain patients in your definition of palliative care. Early this year, Maine passed strict opioid medication dosing at 100 MeD. This limit caused great suffering in our state. After the fact, patients sued the government, and the senator with chronic pain himself helped draft legislation that would include chronic pain patients in that definition. I have all the information on that to circulate later. In Maine's definition of palliative care, it means the patient-centered and family-focused medical care that optimizes quality of life by anticipating, preventing, and treating suffering caused by medical illness or physical injury or condition that substantially affects the patient's quality of life. There we go.
Thank you. Okay, we have Rose, and then on deck we have Jim Anderson.
Hello, everybody. For those of you who don't recognize me by now, I'm Rose. I'm a lifelong Washington resident and now disabled after 25 years in high tech due to multiple incurable progressive conditions which cause intractable pain every single day. I'm also now the co-director of a national coalition of pain patients, healthcare providers, pharmacists, researchers, and authors called the Alliance for the Treatment of Intractable Pain, which is trying to affect change at federal and state levels all over the country for people like me and Cindy who are suffering and compliant patients who are finding it more and more difficult to get our safe and legal medication. Regarding the draft rules of 1427, the statute reads specifically that you all must adopt rules to reduce the number of people who become addicted to opioids, reduce the burden on opioid treatment programs. Well, we know that the use of heroin as an initiating opioid now exceeds prescription opioids, and we know it because a study came out this year that said so. We know that chronic pain patients who are well screened for addiction issues don't misuse their medications or become addicts better than 90% of the time, and we know it because a comprehensive review of studies says so. We know that the rule statute says rules you create are supposed to reduce the burden on opioid treatment programs, but prescription opioid patients are not the primary burden now, and trends indicate they won't be, and we know that because the University of Washington Alcohol and Drug Abuse Institute shows for these trend lines that heroin is the #1 cause of admissions for treatment by opiate subtype and the #1 cause of death, according to Crime Lab. And I'm going to give these to circulate as well. The deal is that as you proceed with careful and thoughtful guidelines to try to reduce addiction and overdose, consider that every rule you make, every limit you set, will have significant impact on roughly 600,000 law-abiding Washington residents in chronic pain and their families to try to prevent addiction and overdose by a much smaller number of people who are using heroin and worse on the street. So we understand you have this challenge before you. We want to support you in these careful, thoughtful efforts to do what you can. But the rules you pass here will not fix people using heroin and fentanyl on the street. This won't. It will hurt hundreds of thousands of people who are just trying to get through the day due to no fault of their own, some disease condition they were unlucky enough to get. So thank you for your time and effort, and please keep it in mind.
Okay, here's Jim Anderson, and then on deck we have Jennifer Davies.
Hello, Jim Anderson. I'm a PA. I'm on the Medical Commission. And I want to talk briefly about a suggestion that I made with the support of the Commission about Section 18. I'm not sure when that will be discussed, so I want to just touch base on it if I could briefly. Section 18 is the area that describes who can be considered a pain specialist. And clearly it includes MDs, DOs, nurse practitioners, podiatrists, and am I missing anybody? Dept. And it does not include PAs, physician assistants, and I think it should. And the Commission, I think, is supportive of this as well. But there was some concern when the pain rules were created before that the issue of a PA having to have a supervisory relationship with an MD somehow muddied the waters. If PAs were included as pain specialists, that would still be in place. the rules of the state of Washington say that a PA needs to work within the scope of a supervising position. And that would still be the case if PA were allowed to be paid specialists. PAs are well suited to do that, and I ask for your consideration of that. Finally, let me say I agree with the Federation of State Medical Board reference. I was on the group that rewrote them, and I think they're often overlooked resource. And I hope that they'll take a look at those as we go through this. They were done very artfully, and I think it's a really nice document. So I hope you will consider those as you make the moves there.
Okay, we have Jennifer Davies, and then we have Andrew something. Sandler, I guess.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak before you today. I initially started out and I was going to espouse a bunch of statistics that wasn't singularly that for as they already have. I am an intractable pain patient. My rheumatologist, Colin Brown, is a very renowned rheumatologist, who also was a professor at the University of Washington and held the chair in rheumatology. I want you to see me for who I am. In 2003, I ended up with a disease called transverse myelitis. I call it a disease because my lupus produced SSA antibodies that attack my spinal cord. I walk, which is very unusual for people like that. As a result, I have incredible neurological pain. And so women, let me put it in perspective for you. Giving birth to a child, the pain that I go through and what I went through, it's about 100 times worse than that. For men, I guess it would be like getting kicked in the testicles over and over and over again. So with that said, I have been on high-dose therapies, pain medicines, and since the CDC's recommendations, this is what's happening. And I want you to pay attention. I don't want eyes roll. I see a couple people rolling their eyes. What is happening? I'm a person who has a master's in business administration. I am also in the high-tech world. But what's happening is pharmacies aren't earning the prescriptions. I had to interview when my rheumatologist went into semi-retirement, 22 pain specialists. Every one of them said the current dose I'm on is appropriate for me, but they were not willing to lose their license. That is not something I ever, as a patient, should have to consider. All of you people are responsible for it. There has been suicides since the CDC's recommendation. There has been independent research by Dr. Klein, Dr. Matthews, Paul Brown, Dr. Tennant, that isn't even considered. These people are pain doctors. I don't know. I think you guys need to have rheumatologists on board here, oncologists. I am from the intractable pain community. One of us needs to be on this board because it's impacting us. And we will start holding you folks accountable. I'm an incredibly private person, and I have been forced to come out in public and tell the world that I'm on high-dose opioids. And that was none of anyone's business, but I have to do it because I have to support people. What is going on is absolutely criminal. There has been multiple suicides. The data that you are using from the CDC, there's a conflict of interest there. Because if they're making the rules, who's watching them? Who's watching you to make sure they're doing their job? I will be watching them. For every suicide, keep it on your mind. I don't think suicide should be a pain management therapy for a person. You know, we live lives. I have children. I live a life. I was a widow. I've dealt with many things in my life. I deal with everything that you guys do. My children break their legs. My children get diseases. And on top of that, I have to deal with chronic pain. And also, you also need to give the public more time to speak. It's impacting us. So every patient that commits suicide, every one of you will be held accountable. And shame on all of you. Shame. I don't care. It does work like that.
We remind you to be respectful with your comments, please, so that we are able to offer a portion of our agenda to the public. If you have additional information that you'd like to share that exceeds the time limit here, we invite you to send your comments in to the Department of Health website. All of those comments are forwarded to this group. To date, we have received about 200 comments, and this group has seen all over. So don't think that
it isn't visible to them.
Now I invite Andrew, and on deck is Dr. Bob Small.
Just a brief bit of who I am. I'm a chemist. My research group was the second banana in the Nobel Prize. In 1987, we collaborated with the winners. They were parents. Okay? But my project was to synthetically repair nerve damage. Okay? Which, that was in 1987. This is 30 years later. Guess what? We haven't advanced since 1987. The best thing we have are unfortunately opiates. Do you think that these chronic pain patients want to suck down these pills constantly? Or would they rather live a better life? Okay? You guys have not made any distinction between suicide and chronic pain patients overdosing. When they overdose, they will overdose for the same reason you guys will. Any of you want prescription pain pills? Any of you want any prescription? Yes? Yeah, right? What do you take, 1, 2 a day? Do you take a bottle by mistake? No, none of you take the bottle by mistake, do you? That's called suicide. Understand that these people have to live. They have nerve damage. They have pain. Okay? People that take the bottle are doing suicide. People that are managing their pain even on these high doses are trying to make sure they make it till tomorrow. Okay? Any of you here pain doctors? No, on the board. No. Any of you oncologists? No. Any of you rheumatologists? No. What are you doing here? What are your qualifications?
We have an expert panel.
Yeah, but you're not an expert on this. Aha! Right.
I don't need to be insulted anymore.
And neither am I, though. But I get it. Okay, you guys have to help them. You can't isolate them, divide, conquer them, make them think that their only way to relieve their pain is suicide. You kidding? All right? It's actually would be nice for you to be a little more empathetic, sympathetic. Understand that these people are over this 90 milligram fictitious, limit, cannot, and do not want to have to do 240, 300, 150. They'd rather do 0. Okay? All right. Thank you. Okay? Feel for them.
Okay, we have Dr. Bob Small, and then we have on deck
Valerie.
So, Dr. Bob Small?
As I mentioned earlier, I'm Bob Small. I'm a psychiatrist and I'm a commissioner on the medical commission. I want to comment specifically on the draft guidelines that you all have been looking at. I want to recognize that a lot of work has gone into them. It's pretty obvious. I am having some challenges with them. I think that you all have been addressing some of the challenges this morning. So I'll just make some general comments. I think overall it's a very extensive document. I'm no longer in practice, but I'm trying to imagine if I was still in practice how I would actually operationalize this document in my practice. I would certainly encourage some shortening of it. I think the document confuses rules with recommendations and suggestions. I think you all have started to grapple with that this morning. I think that the task from the legislature is to write rules, not to write recommendations or guidelines or suggestions. I think it's important to stick to the task and try not to get beyond that. I think there are portions of the document that are still essentially very onerous for both patients and practitioners. And again, thinking about how would I operationalize this if I was in practice? How would I make sure that I address this list of 25 things when I'm running between patients every 10 to 15 minutes? And there are portions of it that I think are still taking a one-size-fits-all approach. However it's done, I think that patients need to be risk stratified, if you can use that term. Patients who are at high risk should be approached differently than patients who are at low risk. And I think that there's not enough attention paid to, and we've heard from a couple of applications, from chronic patients who are on long-term stable doses of opioids without significant adverse effects and not on escalating doses. I think that those folks need to be approached clinically different than other folks. We've had some discussion with some of our medical patient colleagues about this, and actually are going to suggest an alternative, which is working off of the current pain rules. Understanding the pain rules are for chronic non-cancer pain, but some of us feel that they're reasonably good rules. They've been around for a number of years at this point. And so an alternative approach would be to use those as a foundation. I add to those from the items that you're discussing now, some things we discussed this morning, and so I'm hoping that we might be able to present an alternative draft from that perspective for the next meeting. Thank you.
And on deck, we have, so Valerie is next, and then on deck we have Lex.
Hi, my name is Valerie Koch. I was at the Olympia meeting, so you guys probably all know, I was my truck. A very rare tumor. They told me I'd be in a wheelchair in 10 years, and I'd probably be dead in 20. And that was 28 years ago. And most days I use a cane, sometimes a walker, sometimes a wheelchair if I go to Congress, that's right. When I worked in Congress, I just sat around and bullshit, just like you guys do. And we don't always think about the people who work that day and how that policy actually plays out in the real world. Just like, I don't know if you were on the Medicaid board, I was talking to my pharmacist last night, and he said, y'all created a nightmare. 4 different tiers to sign off on opioids. And the pharmacist has to call every doctor for every prescription. They didn't get any direction from the Department of Health. Not fax, not email, etc. And he's just shaking his head. He's shaking his head. These policies, so he just called it nationwide suffering, pain, and suicide, and more disability. We're talking about more chronically ill and medically fragile people in our communities. And I talked 3 people down last week. I run 50 state groups on Facebook, and I had a call last night at 2. I was on till 4. The woman was writing on her sheet. She was writing English. She actually has 6 inches of her colon on the outside of her body, and she's in her 40s. She's still talking about having babies. There's no way that can happen. You know, it's just these people. I want to walk away and not even deal with this. But it's just like I think of her in Indiana. Indiana's completely lost it. Like no doctor prescribed in Indiana or Ohio, Massachusetts. But what you guys all did right here. Our doctors are leaving. We heard last week you all shut down the pain clinic. We don't know if that's true, but we've heard it. You know, supposedly that other pain clinics aren't supposed to take us. We're all supposed to be sent to rehab. We don't use it for medicine. We use it like we do. Like Jennifer's husband was talking about. We don't take it all. You know, I stick my patch on every 2 days, and that's it. Give me months to get another 16. That's it. But I go to the doctor. Is it going to be a sign on the door like it was last summer when the Seattle Pain Clinic got shut down? I go to the same office. So
only the Dr. Tennant supporters group, he's the most esteemed pain management doctor in this country. He had a Lifetime Achievement Award, and 3 weeks later, the DEA rated him. We've had DEA come to pain clinic houses and scared the crap out of them.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to comment today. My name is Leslie Emmerich. I'm here representing the Washington State Hospice and Palliative Care Organization. And I just wanted to make you aware that we're working on comments right now related to palliative care, and wanted to kind of get a marker in on that. We really support your exclusions for palliative care and hospice, and we thank you for that. The questions we have is, how do you distinguish between palliative care patients and chronic care patients? And how do we identify patients receiving palliative care? So we will be trying to offer some positive suggestions on how to address those issues, but I wanted the committee to be aware that we were going to be submitting comments on that. Thank you. We have just a few minutes left. Is there anybody who has not yet had a chance to speak but would like to offer some comments? Okay, so we just have 2 more slots, and then we're going to be calling it a close. May I have your first name, sir? So John, and then we'll have, okay, so John is first, and then Nancy, and then we'll be done with this portion. Thank you.
I may have been the one you called first. Had my last name. I'm John Olson. I'm a chronic pain management physician. I trained at the University of Washington, John J. Bonico was the program chair, board certified in anesthesiology. I've been doing chronic pain management since 1985, so I have 32 years of experience doing this. I have to really thank the patients here that have told us their stories, because this is what I'm seeing from my population of patients. Several hundred people get up here and tell the same story. I have to tell you, pain management is very complex. We've identified now about 20 different genetic varieties of the new opioid receptor in the population, which means there might be 20 different kinds of people. And there also is the complication of the genetics behind alcoholism and addiction. If you're born into a family like that and you carry those genes, you're born with higher tolerance for pain medicine. You're born with a higher tolerance for pain medicine, and you develop tolerance faster than usual. And then we have patients who have different psychiatric makeups. Sometimes, well, the great majority of patients, if you give them an opioid, it makes them a little dysphoric. They feel vaguely nauseated. If their pain goes away, they'll stop. There are certain numbers of them, maybe 10 or 15% of the population, who feel such wonderful euphoria that they will do anything to recapture that high. And we have to sort that all out. And for a long time, I've been a proponent of pain management physicians being well qualified as addictionologists as well. Anyway, that's probably enough out of me.
I'm Nancy Lawton with Advanced Registered Nurse Practitioners United of Washington State, representing 7,500 licensed KRNPs and 5,500 nurse practitioners who are providing 1/3 to a quarter of the primary care in the state. And I am terrified that we are going to have to learn how to give different protocols for patients who come into our primary care visits in 15-minute slots, and I don't know if they're going to be in the acute, the subacute, or the chronic pain management bucket, and I'm going to have to use different criteria for how I prescribe and what I prescribe and how long I prescribe for each one of them, because I don't think out in the primary care world we're going to be able to absorb a lot of variation. So I'm begging for simplicity so that we can in fact provide the service and meet the needs of patients with pain without being terrified as a provider that I'm doing it wrong and having to say, I'm sorry, I can't help you with this.
very much. We are transitioning now to our Tammy Thompson. And I don't know, do you want to stand at the podium or what works for you? Do you want to?
Because I have a PowerPoint presentation, probably just stand at the podium.
Okay.
Tammy's going to talk to us about the state agency rulemaking process.
Okay, can you guys hear me okay? So, good morning, everyone. I'm Tammy Thompson. I am the Regulatory Affairs Manager. I'm going to be challenged all the way around today. So I am the Regulatory Affairs Manager for the Washington State Department of Health. I oversee all of the rulemaking activities within the department. One of my jobs is to coordinate agency rulemaking for all of the 18 boards and commissions, including the Department of Health rulemaking activities that we do. I make sure that our title of rules within 246, our chapter rules, they all have a consistent look and feel, and I make sure that we have all of our rules are consistent with the agency, state statutory authority, laws, executive orders, etc. So what is rulemaking? That's one of the questions that we get lots of times. Whenever an agency creates or changes, amends something, deletes or repeals a rule or recreate a rule, we are required to use what we call the rulemaking process. And this applies to all of the 18 boards and commissions that are under the umbrella of the Department of Health as an agency. So first of all, it's really important that we make sure that we have statutory authority. Everyone has to have statutory authority to adopt rules. We have two laws that we are guided by: the Administrative Procedures Act, which is Chapter 3405, and the Regulatory Fairness Act, which is Chapter 1985. So the APA, the Administrative Procedures Act, that is the law that defines a rule, sets timing for us, notice requirements, gives us all of our structure and how we do our rulemaking, and make sure that we are getting proper public notice. The Regulatory Fairness Act is what sets out the requirements for the small business economic impact statement, which is one of the economic analysis that we need to consider before we pursue rules. The Department of Health also has procedural requirements. Those requirements are what we use to make sure that all of our rules within Title 246 have a consistent look and feel. It also helps our rule writers when they're writing, so they're not having to be so creative. If we've done it once and it works and it's legally enforceable and we've used it on one of our professions, lots of times the subject matter is the same and we can use it throughout all of our chapters. The Secretary of Health also has a role in all of our rulemaking activities. Under RCW 18-130-065, he is required to review and coordinate all proposed rules, interpretive statements and policy statements, and declaratory orders. And we incorporate this within our rulemaking activities within the department. And then last on this list is Chapter 121 of the Washington Administrative Code. It's the Code Revisers rules, and they are the ones that set out timing and format filing requirements for all of the agencies to use. So one of the things I think we need to talk about a little bit is what is the difference between a law and a rule. I do a lot of Department of Health rulemaking hearings, and we get a lot of testimony that is being confused. They are testifying on laws rather than on the rules that we're proposing. And so I thought this was a great opportunity just to remind folks of what's the difference between a law and a rule. So laws in Washington State are called the Revised Code of Washington. All laws are enacted by the legislature and signed either by the governor or they're enacted by via the initiative process. Laws basically give you the authority to do something, and many times they direct the agency to do something. You're actually looking for them most times to direct them to do rulemaking. Laws are enacted through bills, as most of you know, and laws, which we also call statutes, which we also call RCWs. Those are three terms that we use interchangeably, so just different people use them differently, so just to know that they're used interchangeably. So in this world that you are living right now is engrossed Substitute House Bill 1427. 1427, as many of you know, was signed by the governor in May of this year and took effect on July 21st of this year. And it tells the Department of Health you have two things that you need to do. One of the things that it does is it directs our 5 boards and commissions to adopt rules to establish prescribing opioids for 7 health professions. Recognizing up here that there are 5 boards and commissions, recognizing 7 professions because our medical commission and our osteo board both also are required to regulate the physician assistant. Each of those boards and commissions that are in this list, each of them have independent rulemaking authority. And we'll talk about that a little bit in a few minutes. I just wanted to recognize that they all have independent rulemaking authority. And the goal of this rulemaking or of this bill is to reduce the number of people that become addicted and therefore reducing the burden and the need to have this opioid treatment program. These rules are required by the bill to be adopted by January of 2019. One of the things also that I wanted to recognize in this is that in the bill it does allow for exemptions, and I didn't list those all up there, but those of you working with this understand that. So the second thing that Department of Health is required to do is they have been given the opportunity to revise their existing rules to expand the exchange of PMP data to those entities that are listed in the House bill. And the intent is, the rulemaking is to establish this framework for this exchange of data. This PMP is a separate rulemaking project from the boards and commissions. It falls under the Secretary's authority, so it's different. Well, earlier, I think. It's hard to make this all jive. But again, those rules are also required to be in place in January of 2019. So, Revised Code of Washington. So we talked about a law a little bit. So in Washington State, rules are called Washington Administrative Code, or WAC. Rules are used to implement laws or further clarify the intent of the law. Department of Health and Health Profession Boards and Commissions and the Washington State Board of Health, all of our rules fall under Title 246. And one of the things that we want to emphasize is that rules are enforceable. Versus maybe a guideline or a policy statement or interpretive statement, some of you probably have worked on a little bit before, those are not enforceable, that rules and laws are enforceable. So we've talked about real high-level laws, we've talked high-level rules, so how do we get started with this? Well, we know that in order to adopt rules, we've talked about how we have to have statutory authority and how 1427 gave that specific authority. It says you will adopt rules. And so now what do you do now? So we pursue rulemaking using the Administrative Procedures Act. So rulemaking comes in 3 stages. It's the inquiry stage, it's the proposal stage, and it's the adoption stage. And so this past summer, in August, the Department of Health staff worked with each of the boards and commissions, those 5 boards and commissions, to file their CR 101. There's actually 6 CR 101s that we were able to file, 1 for each of the 5 boards and commissions with independent authority, and then 1 for the Department of Health. This was, once you file that inquiry, that's your notice to the public that you are intending to pursue rulemaking, that you're going to entertain that idea. So that was your ticket to begin discussion for rule language. What's that rule language going to look like? And how are we going to start working with our interested parties on drafting that? This is probably a great place to say, again, I just need to emphasize that the law gives you all the authority to do something. Those rules need to be clear, concise, you need an active voice, and they need to set the boundaries within what the law tells you to set those boundaries for. And that we use guidelines just to provide examples. So it's really important that those rules are very clear and they set strong boundaries so that when you need to go and enforce them, you have something to work with. You have something that your board, your commission, and your attorneys have to work with. Once you have developed that proposed language, once you've got it to a place where you are saying this is what we want it to say, we will work with you all to file a 102, which sets your hearing date, time, and location for the public to have their one final comment on your proposal. There will be 6 102s that are filed, 1 for each of the 5 boards and commissions, and then again 1 for the Department of Health rules that we're doing on the POP program. Each of those individual boards and commissions will need to hold their own independent hearings and adopt in an open public meeting their final rules. This will be a little bit of a challenge for you all because those 5 rules need to be substantially similar. The difference between those 5 rules and the Department of Health rules is that those are done in an open public setting. They are done with each of your boards and commissions, and the board and commission chair is the presiding officer of the board hearing. There's the secretary rule. I'm typically the presiding officer. We gather those comments. We take those comments and summarize them and make a recommendation to the secretary who makes the decision to go forward. The boards and commissions, all that's done in an open public setting. So this is just kind of a visual for those that are more visual of the basic rulemaking process. Like I said, you've already filed those 101s back this summer. You are doing your stakeholdering work now and drafting your rule language. Once that draft rule language is put together, the Department of Health staff will help draft how it should look and feel to make sure that it's consistent with all of our standards. We'll work to make sure that with the Attorney General that it's legal and enforceable, and make a determination of what kind of analysis needs to be done, if any, and they get those 102 files so that we can hold a public hearing. There's also those, what's the difference? What is the DOH staff doing versus what are the board and commission members doing? I apologize, I should say board and commission. I was using another presentation that I did, and I apologize. So board and commission members, it's your role and responsibility to be our subject, just in all rulemaking. It's your job to be the subject matter expert. That's what we rely on you. We ask that you attend all participate in all workshops, and then come back and present recommendations to the full commission. So all of the board and commission members that are sitting on these ad hoc committees right now, it's going to be very important that you understand the reasoning behind the proposed rule that came forward so that you can present it to your full commission and help explain it and help support it, because that's what you're here to do. The full commission votes in an open public hearing. They're going to kind of vote for 2 things. They need to vote to go forward with the proposal because it's their proposal, and then they also need to, after the hearing, they're going to vote on whether or not they're going to adopt the rule proposed, or if they're going to make changes or not go forward, right? And again, one of our challenges is with 5 boards and commissions, making sure that we're all on the same page and doing things so that our rules are substantially the same. So what is DOH staff doing during all of this? It's our job to prepare all of that paperwork for you and provide guidance. We are going to provide guidance on which process to use, how to format your rule language. We're going to make sure that there's been work with the Attorney General. We're going to help you determine what analysis needs to be done, gathering information to support that analysis. We also are here to facilitate workshops, ensure that all legal requirements have been met, and ensure that the Secretary of Health has been informed of all activities that have been happening, that his review happens, and that the feedback that he has gets back to the boards and commissions. And then finally, we're making sure that all of the paperwork gets filed with the Produce License Office. That all has to go through our office. So just in general, just to kind of wrap things up a little bit, just remind you all that the statute 1427 gives those 5 boards and commissions clear authority to adopt rules, and those rules need to be they need to provide clear requirements for prescribing, and then for the PMP program, they're going to need to be provide clear direction for data exchange. So we 6 sets of rules, 1 for the department and 5 for those boards and commissions. And they need to be substantially similar. So when we get them at the Department of Health and we're reviewing those with the Secretary, those are the things that we're looking for. We're looking for support in the direction that you've done, the rules that you've provided, the proposal, we're going to look at how you supported it. We're looking for that they are there, that are substantially the same. And if they're not substantially the same, then we're going to be asking why, and we're looking for that support if that is not substantially the same. Any questions?
Thank you, Tammy. And as you all may have gathered, this is a process that's going to continue for quite a while, so there will be continuing opportunities for public comment as we proceed through the process. Now, we are going to take a lunch break. As the lunch is provided but for this group, right? And that lunch is, do we know what that is?
I believe that they put them on the table in Adams, which is where the one garden is. So we get
Right out there? Down the hall?
Take a right and get down there. Oh, they are back here? Oh, okay.
Oh.
Well, then they,
Okay. So you have a ticket to match what your order was. For those of you who are members of the general public, unfortunately, we're not able to provide lunch for you, but there are some resources out there. Our agenda says that we're going to reconvene at 12:30. However, I'm going to ask if the task force is willing to convene a little bit earlier if we can, so that we can motor through some stuff. So let's check in at about 12:15, see how we're doing. But I'm hoping that we can try to start maybe 10 minutes early. Okay. So thank you so much, and we'll check in again about 12:15, 12:30.
Sticking around this afternoon? You guys going to stay the afternoon?
Yeah, I'm going to.
Good. Glad you're keeping an eye on these folks.
It's scary.
It is.
It's a big decision. Doctors have to do.
Such a statement to it. Yeah.
It is. It's all about stage one. I've been studying politics really ever since then.
Yeah, you know how
I'm a staunch conservative. I call this the distance report, where they want to do something. In fact, I would even suggest that the whole opioid crisis is a creative thing that they've heard. The real issue is Obamacare. The federal government wants to be involved in health. He was arrested. People can't afford their premiums. They can't see their doctors. Insurance companies just give up. And the attorneys taking all the money. Both the administrators and legislators are not getting all the money. The patients aren't getting their drugs. They can't get their procedures. They can't see their doctors. You can't afford it. That's what the whole crisis is. So by creating this opioid epidemic, it takes all the attention off the real issues.
and then they can sweep in the new laws for public safety. Look what we've done.
Yeah, how much is the burden on attorneys and settlements?
Well, they get the money. Attorneys want it to do it, and then they can do all of this stuff and get paid for it. I went to the AMCAT conference a month ago and heard a lecture on the Green Collaborative. I've never heard such one. Sometimes 3 slides on who's on the committees. This to people who spend full time, they need to come up with recommendations for the meeting.
I was on that collaborative as, a stakeholder, and you get, everybody's got, and it was an interesting process. It was quite a soup. That was irritating. One that Dennis could work and live with, but it was interesting because anybody could participate. Well, and what it is just kind of trying to keep it reasonable, because there were some people who were trying this landscape quite a lot. So that's kind of why I'm here today, because we got to keep an eye on this.
I think the only thing that we can keep them in mind is what that woman said. We are going to get sued if these people kill themselves under wrongful death lawsuits.
Which story was that? Really?
That's what she said. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Trauma anesthesia guy. I actually did my internship at Sacred Heart. I went to offshore Caribbean school. Just wonderful. An amazing trauma anesthesia. Those big trauma center, HSC, big trauma center. Love it, brilliant guy, very smart, very good.
How you work?
And then they closed the Air Force Reserves, and so they transferred over there. And so I got to meet him. He was like, oh, geez, because I was an internship. So he joined the company, and it was a great guy, really good guy. There was a female airman accused him of doing an inappropriate use during one of our visits. Never do. These aren't like your sessions or big ones, right? We're making sure that your toenails are good. This is just kind of the annual, anything medical going on. So anyway, so she accused him of doing that. What? Right here. Oh. And so we're like, oh, this is all the just kind of let the process happen. Oh no! That was terrible. That was terrible. Yeah. They know. So anyways, this is wrong. It's true. So all was said and done, we wound up getting dishonorable discharge or a discharge under the motor, which is the next step, just above that. He lost his Oregon State medical license. And he had already given up his Nevada one. That one he might have. He is now as he can practice. It's expensive. He would have kept his Nevada one. It's the Oregon one. They judge their success and value to the public by how many dollars they make. Vast majority. So he told me he got ice cream for a gallon pizza. And then he did all of this stuff on his own to try to provide him after to the past. I was able to uncover that she had been lying to the Oregon Board for many years on psychiatric medications, never disclosed. Just too many possibilities. The day that she claimed it happened was the day that we got all of our providers in exam rooms. She said that when they checked the exam room that he uses, we all use the same one. They found no anything in that room that could be used for a ventilator. So then she changed her story and said, well, he took me out of that room and took me down the hall to another room, which was our commander's room, who was seeing patients that day, because we saw the commander went and interviewed 40 females and asked, and this apparently had happened 2 years before she reported. Interviewed like 40-some patients that he had seen. Anything unusual in his exam or nothing. He's like the best doctor I've just about ever known. He lost his license. It's and it truly destroyed a great man's life. Wound up having to get divorced from his wife to save they have an orchard at the river. In order to save it, they had to get divorced in her name. They had to take it. Yeah, just. Well, he's actually suing now, but he didn't have income. Yeah, it's a terrifying story. And it proves that bad things can happen if you're not legislating carefully. So what the Oregon Board did is they used the military as a very different criteria than we do on this side for guilt versus innocence. For them, it's an assumption that the person making the claim is telling the truth, unless you can prove otherwise. And they did such a very poor investigation. They finally said, in fact, the last line of this huge report from the OCI investigation is, and I'm not kidding, this is the final statement, is that the accusers, the accusation is too absurd to not be substantiated. Like, who would make something like that? That is not kidding. And so the Oregon Board totally went around their duty. They did not investigate. They took that statement and suspended his license. And he's been fighting them to do their own investigation. He called the Portland police and said, I've been accused of sexual assault and I need you to investigate it. And they looked at it and said there was not enough evidence for them to investigate it. And he still can't get anything. He finally got before a judge, and that was like 9 months ago or something like that now. And she still hasn't been judged. Hearing a bunch of us went to the hearing. So I left the Oregon Air Guard. I don't even know. I was the golden child. I was like their number one guy. And I said, I'm leaving to the last one. So nobody, I should say that, a lot of people were unhappy that I left because nobody could make the change. All the way up to our wing commander could not change this national OCI investigation. So nobody in that hiring was to stick their neck out for the sexual assault case. The military is so much trouble. This guy just got close attention. If there's any question on things, if there's any question, we investigate on such. You know, you saw some of those things, we're going to wind up investigating probably half of things like that. But really, you look at it on paper, you go, there's no way. But let's look, let's do our due diligence. Let's put an investigator on it. Let's do it. Public safety being released, making sure that doctors that are doing bad things, very bad behavior, what's egregious behavior, is in some way addressed. We don't just, the old days of thinking the boards just sweep the executive rug to protect their doctors. The boards are really not protected. That's our end. It's a very least of things. It's not that we deserve it. It's definitely recommend and the reason the Oregon board didn't investigate is they tried to reprimand individuals. They tried to reprimand another ridiculous board, and he actually made them in court. He made the state board of Oregon retract their enhancement, and it was just a enhancement. So he's on their radar as a guy they're going to get. And that's why they didn't investigate. Now that I got you good scared. Most of the boards in the Northwest are really Oregon's the one to be careful. And Oregon is a mixed board. It's a dairy. It's good to have public members on your board. We have two. We just expanded. We have two Mr. Physicians. We have one we just had a statute that did this, another statute expanded the osteopathic medical board size. It's not too small. Docs will get like 2 So we expanded, we had 2 doctors, but it's still no, this was a selection criteria of the board. So within our board, each of these have boards that are represented, which is 2 of their members to separate achievements. Not fighting back on that. I shouldn't say that. I like doing it. It just gets irritating.
Jennifer,
roasted chickens.
I said that we were going to check in at 12:15, but I think we need a few more minutes. So we'll check in about
5.
What's that?
We're going to check back in. We don't see our guest speaker. So, when he gets here, we'll get started. Anybody want a cookie? Looks pretty good.
I don't want
Please take your seats and get ready to begin. Our guest speaker is Jeff. We've got some folks that are going to be telling us about, from the state, Washington State Medical Association. It's a short presentation. Want to say anything more about it here?